My universal education. My life is anything but easy. If I had to label myself, I would go for a wounded shaman. I am injured because I have to suffer from many diseases to find an answer in how to combat these. I am purely tested on my resistance and endurance. In a sense, I represent a Chiron from Greek mythology. He was a healer, and he also became terminally ill. By looking for a medicine, he would gain a lot of knowledge in the field of medication. Through his quest, he became a true healer. Ultimately, all the pain would make him give up his immortality. Death would deliver him from evil. As you can see, everything is about physical healing, but this also concerns mental healing. For example, I would solve my depression thanks to the knowledge of astrology. I came across this by following a feeling that I woke up with. Astrology represents a form of mental healing. You understand that, when I represent a wounded healer, that it also includes knowledge of the universal energies, namely astrology and numerology. The next aspect is spirituality. Through the knowledge of astrology and later numerology, I would uncover all the building blocks of my total character. Spirituality is about nothing more than having ultimate self-knowledge, and using this knowledge to benefit from it. After many years of analyzing and explaining myself, I have reached a state known as a higher state of consciousness. I am familiar with psychic abilities, the afterlife, UFOs, astrology, and numerology. Everything revolves around the hidden, or that which we cannot always directly perceive with the eye. I know myself to the core, and as far as I still function, I use myself optimally. I am still someone who mentally continues to go for everything. In that sense, nothing has changed about me. I now live a life with minimal stress, and I've noticed that I haven't gotten sick in years, not even the flu. My health actually flourishes in having personal freedom. Finally, there is the most important aspect. I am a pure serpent-bearer, which means that my life is purely dedicated to acquiring so-called psychic abilities. It is the mark of the shaman. My zodiac sign is very well known for having psychic abilities. Each psychic ability that I possess is often an entirely unique experience. In the life of a shaman, everything in life revolves around gaining as many experiences as possible. This also includes the use of substances, such as drugs. It is not about the feeling you get, it is about becoming familiar with the fact that the body has multiple modes of experience. For example, snorting coke gives you an entirely different experience than eating mushrooms. With cocaine, you feel very confident, and you feel mentally cheerful and sharp. For example, with magic mushrooms, you can see elephants flying. In my experience, I could feel music. Something that I now find difficult to imagine in a sober state. I was also completely zen during this trip. So what I want to say is that everything is about gaining different experiences, in the broadest sense of the word, and consciously analyzing them. When it comes to clairvoyance, I have been able to experience this gift in its broadest sense. There are also a very few experiences that are the same. All experiences form a unique puzzle piece that says something about the limits and possibilities of the simulation. I have described all experiences very accurately, down to the smallest detail. My goal is not to be special, my goal is to teach you something about what psychic abilities actually are. For example, many people have the gift of clairvoyance, but are completely unaware of this because they do not analyze their dreams. By the way, dreams play a crucial role in my universal education. Now that I think about it deeply, even the gods have played with my dreams. Contact with the gods can be through dreams, but it is worth noting that they are all about pure symbolism. In my case, the message was proclaimed in 3 different dreams, all 3 of which came one after the other. They are also the only dreams where I ever felt the urge to write everything down in a notebook after waking up. I wouldn't bother to look at it until many years later. I had an urge to look for that notebook, and I spent an hour and a half doing this, until the middle of the night. When I found the notebook, I started analyzing them and wrote everything down in a text document. When I finally finished writing down the last dream, I had a real mindfuck. I had also written down in the notebook the date and time, down to the minute, when I had experienced each dream. When I finished writing it down, I looked at the time of the last dream and found that it was exactly 6 years later, down to the precise minute. It was another hint from the universe that I was on the right track. Claircognizance. I possess 4 psychic abilities, and claircognizance is a gift to which I am very faithful. When this gift presents itself, it receives my utmost confidence because it has always proven to be right. No one is capable of convincing me otherwise. The special thing about this gift is the fact that it concerns things that I cannot or should not know at all. Claircognizance is an inner voice, which has no identity like man or woman, and comes from the solar plexus. So it is not a voice inside your head. The solar plexus, therefore, has a function in the field of psychic abilities. With this gift, I always get the feeling that it is a guide that helps me. Something is guiding me in the background, which communicates through this inner feeling, coming from the plexus solaris. Around the age of 19, I consciously came into contact with this feeling for the first time. I had already been out of high school for a year, and I was sitting relaxed in front of the computer. Suddenly, I got a strong feeling that I was going to receive a call from an old classmate, whom I had not seen or spoken to for a year and a half. I then look at my phone, it rings 2 seconds later, and turns out it is that classmate I was thinking about. I thought that was a coincidence and decided to tell my mother. She laughed it off. Then I walked up the stairs, and I'm standing there on the landing, and I got another feeling. This time it said that my mother would receive a call from a good friend. I turn around and shout down from the stairs that my mother is going to get a call from her. My mother stood with the phone in her hand and laughed it off. The phone rang 2 seconds later with an unlisted number, and it turned out to be the friend I warned her about. In just 5 minutes, I had 2 inner feelings that came true. I received information, and with all the courage in the world I said it out loud, only to see it come true. My last experience with clairvoyance was on January 19, 2020. I have consciously remembered this date. This was the date that I first became aware of the coronavirus. It is estimated that by early December that previous year, the virus had broken out. When I finished reading an article, I had another inner feeling, and it was just one word: bioweapon. Immediately, the scenario of the discoverer of LSD crossed my mind, and I knew enough. The coronavirus comes from a laboratory. Then came a period where I saw many reliable people, on behalf of large organizations such as the World Health Organization, lie very hard to keep everything quiet. They were very aware of the real problem. It was striking that you could say anything on social media. For example, you could make the claim that the virus came from a baboon's ass, but saying that it escaped from a laboratory was prohibited and was ruthlessly condemned as a conspiracy theory. In short, anything could be said, but there was conscious censorship on the truth. For me, it was the ultimate hint that I was touching a very sensitive nerve. Let us use our brain for a second. What is known about this virus is that the cell and its contents consist of 2 entirely different animals. It concerns a bat and that of an armadillo. In nature, it is impossible for 2 entirely different animal species to merge genetically. This was the first hint that it comes from a laboratory. That story about the illegal meat market, the place where it officially broke out according to the sources, was a complete lie. Yet, the story gets much worse. American documents have been found, which point out that they were already experimenting with this coronavirus in 2015 and 2016. In short, the virus already existed and had not suddenly appeared out of nowhere. I even suspect that the Americans have outsourced this secret project to China, and that someone there infected themselves during an experiment. Without realizing it, this person was infected, and the virus was able to spread unnoticed for 8 days, until the scientist dropped dead. The meat market is nothing more than a front. America and China are both involved in all the misery that would follow in the world. This proves that the Americans are engaged in creating biological weapons. As humanity, we have the gods to thank. Thanks to evolution, little is left of this extreme virus. I want to end this part of Claircognizance with my best experience. This experience was made possible by my guide. I was at someone's birthday, and we decided after the birthday to go out and party. While standing in a club, I was relaxed and was looking around. There were all these pool tables, and I was playing a few games with some friends. It was a period in my life when I had no money, and I didn't want to take advantage of other people. Times were tough. I was standing there looking around uselessly, and I suddenly saw an old schoolmate with some nice-looking girl. This guy always hated me, and he wanted to impress her. For whatever reason, he walked up to me very tough, and I remember him making a shitty comment. At that moment, something exceptional happened. Instead of becoming angry, I suddenly became very calm within myself. Instead of commenting negatively on his behavior, I gave him valuable advice. Out of the blue, I said to him in very honest language, "Hey, I often see you walking around with many pleasant girls, but I never see you leaving with one. I see you standing there with a very pleasant girl, but if you don't work on her tonight, she will pass you by." This just came out on autopilot, as if I was briefly taken over by my guide. When I said it, I immediately thought to myself, "Is this correct?" and quickly concluded, "Everything will turn out fine." He looked at me, and he thought I was crazy. He didn't see that positive reaction coming at all. I can still see that grin on his face, but my feeling said, "Calm down, everything will be fine." I was immediately confident. He walked back to that girl, and I can see on her face that he told her everything. She also started looking at me strangely, and yet the smile couldn't leave my face. I already knew from previous experiences that something was coming. I just had to be patient. It's an hour later, and I'm now in a different club. All this time I felt the urge to leave, and yet I stayed. I didn't have money to hang up my winter coat, so I wore it all evening. I'm standing on the side leaning against a pillar, feeling a bit hopeless, and I see next to me that the tough guy was standing there with that girl. I then saw him walk away to get a drink. As he walks away, someone from that birthday comes up to me and starts talking drunkenly, in all honesty. He starts telling me something like, "Elmer, I'm crazy about a girl and I don't know what to do. She means a lot to me and blah blah blah." Then I said to him with good intentions, "You know what you should do, you should not say this to me, but say this to her." He looked me straight in the eye and said, "You're absolutely right." Then I see him walk up to that girl and kiss her full on the mouth. I didn't see that jerk who went to get a drink for the rest of that entire evening. My prediction had come true, without having deliberately lived by it. Yet, my advice played a critical element. Fate did its thing. Perhaps the best part was the fact that she was looking at me while kissing him. I could see in her eyes that it was a true, what the fuck moment for her. I thank my guide for this wonderful experience. Clairsentience. I would discover that my psychic abilities are linked to specific zodiac signs. This is also where things get a bit complicated. My ascendant is in the zodiac sign of Gemini. The Gemini is known for becoming one with the other, in a literal sense. This sign is made to put other types on steroids, and this other type also gets extra qualities such as flexibility and intelligence. So it has a tendency to merge with another. The disadvantage of Gemini is the fact that they can lose themselves in others. There is a lack of self-identity. As a Gemini, you are basically either a Gemini/Taurus or a Gemini/Cancer. The pure period is only 2 degrees and is characterized by complete instability, chaos, death, and destruction. I am a Gemini/Taurus. This also means that instead of one, I have been given 2 psychic abilities. Taurus is all about claircognizance and Gemini is all about clairsentience. Clairsentience is a gift that I couldn't explain for a long time, but I now think I know what it is. My soul can divide into 2 parts, and one of these parts can bond with another person. They merge, as it were. I can make this connection with many people. It always happens in situations when I'm strongly thinking about somebody, or when I'm sitting near someone. By the way, this gift is a lot like a curse. I am completely out of control while this occurs. It also doesn't matter where the person is. For example, I was connected continuously to someone more than 22 miles away for 3 months straight, and I couldn't break the connection. It was on telepathically 24/7. To give an example, I was crazy about someone, but she kept me on a leash. Every moment that she was kissing someone else was the moment that I received a signal with a message that she was being unfaithful. In a very extreme case, I was woken up in the middle of the night by such a warning. The gift of claircognizance and clairsentience came together all the time during that period. This is the hint that says we are dealing with the universal energy of Gemini. This gift brought out the worst in me. Everything ended when the truth finally came out, and it turned out that this gift had been trying to warn me all along. In retrospect, I managed to dodge the bullet. All this time, I was literally at war with myself. Being connected for 3 months straight left me mentally exhausted. This was in the period just before my study at the university were to end. This gift would play a major factor in creating the burnout. It also indicates that fate did everything it could to destroy me. Clairsentience has taught me that the difference between a curse and a gift is minimal. For me, this clairsentient gift is all about the negative. This negative relationship is also clearly reflected in my name. Due to my burnout and bipolar disorder, I would come into contact with mental health care. In this world, you meet people with the most diverse diseases. I would experience that there were times when I temporarily took over someone else's illness. This person only had to sit near me. Everything always went well, until I got home and the bomb exploded. I then walked around in complete hyper, and couldn't eat or sleep. I was completely freaking out. This lasts all day, until I fall asleep and wake up the next morning. So sleep is a reset button. The problem I experience with clairsentience is that, in my case, it represents an energy that goes to work completely ruthlessly, and to some degree, it likes to see me suffer. It seems to enjoy my pain, and it goes completely its own way. The message is always raw and harsh, yet my relationship seems to have improved over time. This is because, in the process of resolving my depression, I finally gave the Gemini some form of existence. I gave it its identity back. Currently, I'm experiencing thunder at its best. Impulsiveness. Another psychic ability that is completely underestimated is impulsiveness. I am a person who always follows his feelings, without asking any questions. I am a true dreamer, and I am easily distracted. I always want to do what I feel like doing. I have never been someone who lives well by other people's rules. I go my own way as much as possible. However, this does not mean that I never listen to someone else. I'm the type that, when something comes to my mind, I immediately take action. This does not mean that I always act thoughtlessly. There is a reason behind everything I do and say. A good example of impulsivity is the story of the flight of thoughts and bipolar disorder. I had a strong inner feeling during work, and I immediately went home. When it comes to the depression, I woke up with a strong feeling, and once again, immediately went to work on giving my zodiac signs an identity. Look at that man I visited in the hospital. This too was based on impulse. How about that time when that phone rang? This was also a moment when I purely relied on my feelings and even had the courage to say it out loud, with 100% confidence. Impulsiveness is a gift because it can lead to answers or other special experiences. I notice strongly that I am always rewarded for following my impulses. In my case, it is my invisible twin who takes care of these situations. What gives it away is the fact that it temporarily takes over other people. The second aspect is the impulse, a quality that belongs to the fire element. Sagittarius is the zodiac sign that consists of the elements fire and air. It is known that Sagittarius and Gemini get along very well. It gives my gift an extra dimension. My impulsiveness is also accompanied by temporary takeover, something a normal Sagittarius will never experience. In my case, it is a combination of both zodiac signs. Let me give you an example of impulsiveness. I was working on a subject, I can't remember exactly what it was, and it was such a situation that instead of answers, you just get more questions. My whole mind was in brainstorm mode, and suddenly, out of nowhere, I got the feeling to go for a walk. I immediately put on my shoes and started walking through the forest. During this walk, I met a woman and I started talking to her about her dog. I was talking to her for 5 minutes and then something special happened. Out of the blue, without going anywhere near the subject, she gave me all the answers to every question I had asked myself at home, and then everything went back to normal, as if nothing had happened. In short, by going for a walk outside, or in other words by immediately following my impulse, I would encounter someone who possessed this knowledge and could give me the answers on a silver platter. Let me step into the position of my guide. Let me try to imagine how this happened. My guide is always next to me and is aware of the questions that concern me. I was working on a topic and received many questions. My guide saw this and immediately started looking for someone who had these answers. So, in a sense, there is a kind of search engine. Ghosts can, as it were, smell you, at very great distances. Occasionally, they know you better than you know yourself. My Gemini in this case found a woman walking in the woods, and it would help me by allowing me to come into contact with this woman. However, to get in touch with this woman, I had to find myself in the woods. I have also experienced this with a psychiatrist. I remember when I was talking to my psychiatrist and I unintentionally made the wrong comment. I had never seen her angry, but in a controlled fit of rage, she gave me the answers to every question I asked at home. It was completely out of her character. I came back to this a conversation later, and she could no longer remember anything about the incident. I also see a connection between the two experiences here. It appears that there is something hanging around me as a guide, which can temporarily take over other people. By temporary, I mean less than a minute. It plays on my impulses very occasionally, and by following it I get a reward. Clairvoyance. The last psychic ability I want to share is also an ability that is being misunderstood by many. When it comes to psychic abilities, they all relate to me personally. I don't dream for others, which in turn means I can't predict the future for other people. You only realize that it was a prediction when you actually experience it. All clairvoyant experiences are accompanied by a dream or temporary trance. When I experience this in dreams, there is no time or date when it will take place. What makes me special in this area is that I have been able to experience this gift in a very broad sense. It is Scorpio at work. In the beginning, they were long-term predictions. At that time, I wondered about the value of clairvoyance, since you only find out about it the moment you experience it. The gods listened to my request, and my negative image would entirely change the moment I started experiencing it in short term. Clairvoyance finally showed its usefulness as a gift. The first time I came into contact with clairvoyance was when I was about 8 years old. I had had a very vivid dream about a teammate. In my dream, he made a very specific dribble with a basketball. The light in the training hall was off, and he stood in front of the open swinging doors. Then a year passed, and my dream came true. It was after basketball practice, and I saw my teammate standing there in front of the open swinging doors of the hall, and the lights were off. Out of nowhere, he suddenly makes that very specific dribble. While this is happening, I immediately fall into a short trance. It felt like a short burst of energy, and I was in a temporary dream state. When he finished the dribble, that was the moment I fully recovered. I never said anything to my parents about this. My dream from a year before was 100% accurate. At that time, I continued with life as if nothing had happened. Now that I think of it, I see everything entirely different. The scary thing about this entire story is the fact that this boy could have made any choice in life that year, yet everything still led to that one moment. Clairvoyance shows that the future we face is written in stone. This is also called fate. Clairvoyance occurs largely through dreams. In extremely rare cases, it can happen that you are surprised by an actual daydream. I experienced this only once. You are busy with something, and out of nowhere you end up in a dream state and receive information. The moment you wake up from this state, you often forget the entire incident. Just like a real dream, after waking up, it is often difficult to figure out what you dreamed about. Clairvoyance and a trance state always go together as a pair. This also means that there are many clairvoyant people who are completely unaware of their gift. They do not analyze their dreams and therefore remain blind to its existence. This previous example was a long-term example, but I would also experience clairvoyance with short-term effect. In my opinion, it always pays to do things based on pure feeling. I played indoor soccer for a short period, and during one of the matches, I encountered clairvoyance. I was standing on a spot on the sideline, and a defender was standing diagonally behind me. I then briefly fall into a trance and imagine that I pass the ball between me and the defender with great effect, and then have the advantage at full sprint. I come out of the trance and am immediately handed over the ball, and the ball passes perfectly, just like in the dream fragment, with great effect between me and him. The imagination was 100% accurate. I then start the sprint, and I reach the ball just a little earlier than the defender. I just managed to get the tip of my shoe against the ball, and I see the goalkeeper dive over the ground. The ball went right past his fingertips, hit the inside post, and went into the goal. It couldn't be more precise. In this case, I received a prediction that came true immediately afterward, but there is also an element to it that I then have to capitalize on it myself. I have another experience of short-term clairvoyance, and this was my best experience ever. I was 19 years old, and I was at the fair with two 12-year-olds. One of them wanted to get into the bumper cars, and immediately a warning feeling went through my body. So I also decided to ride with him in the bumper cars. We are in round 3, and then out of nowhere this 12-year-old boy is hit in the face while they were coming from the opposite direction. It was a real sucker punch, out of nowhere, for no reason. I was so angry that they didn't do it to me, that I immediately started a conflict with the group. All I remember is that I was pushed and fell off the raised platform, landing on the hood of a car parked next to it. At that moment, a thought immediately went through my mind. A year earlier I had also been attacked by a group and, to my regret, I did not fight back. This moment passed through me very briefly, and I decided, out of pure anger, to take up the fight this time and fight back. After this choice, everything went black for a split second and a trance followed. In this trance, I was shown in 3 seconds, in a clear, colorful, sharp image, what my opponent was going to do and how I avoided it, and it also included the response of me hitting back. Then I come out of the trance and my body automatically starts fighting for me. It was as if it had been programmed, there was no influence from me. I immediately fell into another trance straight afterward. This short trance, where I got to see everything in 3 seconds and then see it come true, happened 3 to 4 times in a row. Actually, I'm 9 to 12 seconds older than I actually should be. I experienced 3 seconds of time, in a period of just 1 millisecond. In short, during the trance where I was shown the future in the short term, time was also slowed down enormously. The only explanation I have is that my guide had temporarily taken over my body. It started fighting in my name. However, there was also a big painful moment. When the trance was over, I felt it necessary to add another kick myself, and this was clearly not in the plan. I kicked him so hard with my instep that I walked with a complete limp for 2 months. It was an expensive lesson for me to learn that you should always kick with your shins, and I would also cash in on this lesson at some point. Allow me to share this story with you so that the circle is complete, although it has nothing to do with psychic abilities. It was indoor soccer, and we played in the lowest division. There were hobby teams, and people who felt it necessary to break your legs. There came a time when I was in a duel with a player. This man was twice as heavy and also 1.5 times as wide. I had the ball, and then he throws his full weight into it, trying to knock me off the ball. He then started leaning against me with his back and also found it necessary to elbow me on my chest, 3 times in a row. The referee was literally a meter away and had seen everything, but did not intervene. I then looked at him with an indignant look, and the penny dropped for me very quickly. I then became extremely furious and decided to kick this guy over with my shin. I had never seen anyone fall so hard to the floor. I swept him right over. He then got up and wanted to grab a teammate, but I quickly made it clear to him that he had to deal with me. I also made it loudly clear that he had to stop kicking my teammates or that there would be problems. The great thing about this story was that afterward, there was a lot of fun playing the game without kicking, hitting, or anything else. Everything was played very sporty. I remember it as a fun match. As crazy as it sounds, my kick ultimately had a very positive effect on the entire match. At the end of the match, I had no issues at all, and he walked around with a completely blue shin. He learned an important lesson: don't fuck with the messenger.